Field reports from the strange. This is Obscura Bureau.
In the sterile silence of a hospital room, a man's heart stopped beating for 37 minutes. Medical staff pronounced him dead, the scent of antiseptic and sterile plastic hanging in the air. But as they prepared to wheel the body away, a single, wet gasp shattered the quiet. The air grew heavy with the metallic tang of ozone, as if lightning had struck the room. He sat up, his skin cold and clammy to the touch, but his eyes, they held a focus that was utterly alien. And when he finally spoke, his voice was a dry, grating whisper that didn't sound like his own. He uttered 3 words that made the seasoned doctor's hands tremble, a primal dread taking hold of the room. I saw the door, a stark white hospital room, where sunken eyes stare blankly at a sterile ceiling. A chart shows his vitals plummeting in erratic, terminal lines. The doctor shakes his head, not in disbelief but in grim, clinical resignation. This is the story of a man who entered the desert with a full canteen and chose not to drink it. For 47 endless days, he subsisted on nothing but his own waste. A thick, cloying stench of rot and ammonia clung to the air. When they finally found him, the quiet was so profound it felt solid. The doctors who saw what remained wished, with a cold, sinking dread, that they had never looked. His name was Michael Warner. To his Phoenix neighbors, he was just Mike, a quiet, slightly eccentric IT consultant who loved hiking the southwestern trails. The mundane details of his life made what came next all the more unsettling. Mike was a planner, a man of pure logic. But in the spring of 2003, a profound, spiritual restlessness seized him. He became consumed by the idea of human limits. An obsession took root, dark and gnawing. He devoured texts on survival, on ancient ascetic rites. He studied the very precipice of human endurance. The air in his study grew thick, with the scent of old paper and a strange, metallic anticipation. He planned a journey to the remote Bear Canyon, a brutal, beautiful expanse of Arizona desert. He told his sister Sarah it was a vision quest, a week of solitude and fasting. His pack was sparse: a tent, a sleeping bag, a knife, a journal, and a single 1-liter canteen. Sarah would later recall, her voice trembling, he said he needed to reset. He said he wanted to see what he was really made of. I thought it was just another one of Mike's bizarre health obsessions. I warned him to be careful. He just laughed and said, "The desert will provide." The initial days unfolded as intended. Mike trekked through the ancient woods, meditated in the mossy stillness, and documented his thoughts in a worn leather journal as he began his fast. The hunger arrived, a hollow gnawing deep in his gut, but it remained a distant, manageable presence. Yet, the profound quiet of the wilderness began to feel less like peace and more like a held breath. The air grew heavy and damp, carrying the faint, earthy scent of decay and cold stone. Then, on day 4, disaster struck on the treacherous screen slope. A misstep sent rocks cascading down the mountainside. The sickening crack echoed through the thin mountain air. A sharp cry of pain tore from his throat, swallowed by the vast emptiness. Mike's ankle snapped with a sickening crack, leaving him utterly isolated miles from his vehicle. With only a liter of water, sheer panic should have consumed him completely. But for Mike, this wasn't a disaster. It was the beginning of something far worse. This was the ultimate trial. He made a choice that defied all logic. He would not drink the water. Not yet. The metallic tang of ozone clung to the air. A damp chill seeped through his clothes. His breath hitched as a distant, rhythmic scratching echoed from the darkness beyond. A primal dread took hold. The water waited. A silent, terrifying promise. He'd read about urine therapy, a fringe, dangerous practice where the body, in extremis, could recycle its own waste. He decided to prove it. The lone canteen sat before him, its metal surface catching the harsh sunlight in a blinding glint. A coppery, stagnant odor rose from it, the smell of desperation made tangible. His breath hitched as his fingers closed around the cool, damp metal, the weight of his choice settling in his gut. He sipped his water sparingly, making it last an entire week. When the last drop was gone, he turned to the unthinkable. He began collecting his own urine. His journal would later describe that first sip as utterly revolting, bitter and warm, a punishment he forced down as his body screamed for sustenance. His journal entry shifted from spiritual musings to stark, desperate logs. Day 12. The air tastes of iron and decay. Each entry grew more fragmented as his mind unraveled in the oppressive stillness. The thirst isn't just a sensation. It's a creature living in my throat, clawing its way up from the pit of my stomach. My urine is hotter now, scalding as it passes, and darker the color of rust or old blood. It smells sharply of ammonia, a chemical sting that hangs in the damp bathroom air and burns the back of my nose. This isn't illness, it's a change, a corruption working from the inside out. The throbbing in my ankle faded to a dull, distant ache, utterly eclipsed by the violent drumming in my skull. Day 19. The hallucinations have begun. I saw Sarah standing by the jagged rocks. She wasn't flesh and bone, but a being woven from pure, impossible radiance. We spoke for hours, her voice the only tethered to sanity in that suffocating darkness. But the stark reality returned when I checked my water. My urine was a deep, unsettling amber, almost brown. The metallic scent of it hung in the stale air, a grim testament to my body's desperate struggle. With a grimace, I had to dilute it, adding precious drops from my final reserve. Each one a countdown. It was becoming difficult to form coherent thoughts. Mike was vanishing, not merely physically as his body consumed its own tissue and organs. The logical IT specialist was gone, his mind eroded away. In his place remained only a raw, primal instinct. Survive, recycle, continue. He crossed a threshold beyond starvation, a living decomposition. His kidneys, strained past all limits, were producing a toxic concentrate. He was poisoning himself to stay alive. A foul, metallic scent clung to the air, the stench of his own body turning against him. Day 47. A helicopter crew, sweeping the canyons, spotted a flash of orange tarpaulin far from any trail. When the team reached the isolated tent, the smell assaulted them first. It was a cloying, sweetly chemical odor, laced with the thick scent of advanced decay. It was a smell they would carry with them, seared into memory, for the rest of their lives. The tent flap peeled back, revealing a form shrouded in a soiled sleeping bag. It was a skeleton draped in parchment-thin skin, its hair matted and falling away in patches. The air inside the tent was thick, with the scent of decay and damp earth. My breath caught. This wasn't a person. It was something else entirely. The skin was like ancient parchment, stretched taut over the skeletal frame. And those eyes, they remained wide open. Though clouded with age, they held a terrible awareness. A primal dread confirmed it. He was still alive. The hospital ER descended into chaos, medical staff moving with frantic disbelief. Michael Warner's body was a skeletal 90 pounds, his skin paper-thin and waxy under the harsh fluorescent lights. The clinical air carried the metallic scent of blood and the sterile sting of antiseptic. Doctors stared at monitors showing multiple organ systems collapsing in real time, their faces etched with professional horror. The lab results were unequivocal. His blood chemistry matched that of a corpse. Then, they discovered his journal and began reading the meticulous, horrifying records. A metallic, coppery scent hung in the air, thick and cloying. The pages felt cold and slightly damp to the touch as they turned. Each entry documented a steady, terrifying decline. The final notation was stark, its meaning absolute. The descriptions of the urine, that calculated, deliberate descent into hell. It was medically impossible. The human body can, under perfect conditions, survive maybe 30 days without food, with water, without any meaningful hydration. A week? Maybe 2, but he had consumed a hyperconcentrated toxin for over a month. His body wasn't being sustained. It was being slowly pickled from the inside out. The faint scent of formaldehyde and rot began to seep from his pores. He wasn't living. He was persisting. The air in the room carried the sterile scent of antiseptic mixed with something faintly metallic. His rescue wasn't the climax. It was the moment of realization that settled in. A cold, damp dread seeped through him, heavier than any physical pain. For 47 days, Michael Warner had cheated death with the very substance that heralded its arrival: bodily waste. He existed within a sealed, toxic cycle, bartering prolonged suffering for a single extra day, and then another. The air in his room carried the metallic tang of decay and the sterile sting of antiseptic, a smell that had become his world. Now, in the present day, that bargain has reached its inevitable conclusion. Michael survived, at least in body. He regained weight, but the damage was permanent. His kidneys and liver were scarred beyond repair. The physical cost was etched into his very being. The psychological scars ran deeper than anyone could see. He never spoke publicly about his ordeal, living in near total seclusion. He's cared for by his sister Sarah, who witnesses his transformation daily. Sarah: "He's not my brother anymore." Mike wasn't the same man I remembered. His silence was unnerving. He'd fixate on a simple glass of water, watching it for what felt like an eternity. There was a palpable dread in his stillness, a terror that seemed to cling to the air like damp. It wasn't just fear. It was a primal understanding of something profoundly wrong, and a grief that felt unreachable. The air carried a dry, mineral scent as it whispered through the canyon. So what is the true story of Michael Warner? Was he a survivalist who conquered the impossible, or something else entirely? Or was he a man so terrified of surrender, so consumed by the trial, that he embraced the ultimate form of self-torment? He didn't prove the body could survive on urine. He proved the human will could compel itself to do anything, even drink from the well of its own decay, just to witness one more dawn. He didn't break the laws of science. He endured a punishment they never thought to write. The last, slow thump of his heart echoed through the void, then faded. Absolute silence descended, thick and cold as a shroud. In the new quiet, the only sensation was the damp, metallic scent of old iron hanging in the stagnant air.